Hello, folks. Welcome to episode 21 of season 2 of the GOAT series. I'm your host, Jeremy Hadler, and today I'm going to be talking about the greatest Jaguars player of all time in franchise history. I'm going to go over the rules here like I always do when I do the GOAT series, and I'm reading off here, which is I choose 5 candidates of who I think is the greatest Jaguars player of all time up to this point in the franchise history. The criteria I always look for in these candidates is their accomplishments with the team, their tenure with the team, how they played with the team, how are they on and off the field with the team, and their stats with their franchise? Because all these stats I'll be providing today is only with their team, with the Jaguars. This is how they play with them. I also do honorable mention, like I mentioned before in past episodes, when we have guests on, they can have the opportunity to choose a honorable mention, but we don't have one here today. So I will be choosing my own honorable mention here. And at the end of the video, I choose my ultimate GOAT here, folks, of who I think is the greatest Jaguars player of all time. So let's start off our honorable mention. My honorable mention is Marcus Stroud, defensive tackle, played 8 seasons for the Jaguars. He has 1 second-team All-Pro, 3-time Pro Bowler. His stats, folks, 23 passes defended, 6 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, 22 sacks, 279 combined tackles, 12 quarterback hits. So what sticks out to me about him besides his weight and height? He was the dominant force on the field. He was one of the main pieces for the Jaguars defense for so many years. He's known for his size, like I just mentioned, his strength, just power through his offensive line and get pressure on the quarterback and hit him and disrupt the run game and the pass game by collapsing the pocket and going after the running back or the quarterback or just making pressure on the quarterback to throw it away. Those are some of the great things. He's great at stopping the run, pressuring the quarterbacks like I just mentioned before, and he was a great player. And the Jaguar fans, you guys love him. I know that. So I like to give appreciation here to Marcus Stroud. Next player on my list, this guy played 7 seasons for the Jaguars, and that is Tony Baselli, left tackle, the blindside spot. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a 3 first-team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler. He made the pride of the Jaguars, which is pretty much their Hall of Fame for the Jaguars. These guys are never retired by the Jaguars, number 71. Interesting fact about him, he was the first ever Jaguars pick in their franchise history, so that's awesome to hear. His career was cut short due to injury, so he didn't have that longevity and durability that he could last longer than most NFL players who have a Hall of Fame career. Now, what sticks out to me about Tony Baselli? He's known for exceptional technique. He's got great strength. He's very athletic. Now, he was critical in protecting this quarterback, who I'm going to talk about next, and helped establish a strong run game to help create that offense for the Jaguars in early success, and he helped them get to the AFC Championship game his second year there, so that was pretty awesome to do. If Tony Baselli stayed healthy, I definitely think he could be argued the best left tackle of all time in NFL history. Definitely, if he had stayed healthy. Unfortunately, he didn't, but he had overall great career with the Jaguars, and not many offensive linemen get recognition, get that Hall of Fame career. Tony Baselli did it, and he did it as their number 1 overall pick, and Jaguars do not regret on taking him. He was a fantastic pick for them. Next guy I have up, which is the quarterback I would like to mention, played 9 seasons for the Jaguars, and that is Mark Brunell. Mark Brunell came from the Packers to the Jaguars when the Jaguars were the expansion. They're having their expansion draft. Mark Brunell was with great quarterbacks and had a great head coach, and he had a great offensive coordinator. But let's talk about his time with the Jaguars. He's a 3-time Pro Bowl, 1-time passing yards leader, made a pride of the Jaguars. He's not in the Hall of Fame, but he made the Jaguars Hall of Fame. His stats, folks, 60.4 completion percentage, 25,698 passing yards, 144 passing TDs, 86 interceptions, 85.4 pass rate. Known for his leadership, his mobility to move out of the way of dodging defenders and being very clutch and delivered in clutch moments. That was a big thing. He was the Jaguars' first starting quarterback. And going back to being clutch in the moments, he excelled by moving around, like dodging defenders and throw outside the pocket to keep the play alive. And he had great scrambling ability. He was left-handed, folks. That is the interesting thing. Most quarterbacks, when you watch them today, are right-handed and you throw this way. He was left-handed, so that's very rare breed to see that. Very rare breed for his throwing style and to see that. But he had, in that time, he had great precision of being a great passer out there. And the passing made him stand out among the as a great quarterback in his era and his time there. He helped guide the Jaguars to 4 playoff appearances, including a probable run to the AFC Championship game in his second season with the Jaguars. Nobody does that. It's very rare to see that. Now, in that time, the playoff run, they upset both the Buffalo Bills with Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas and Bruce Smith of that era, of that team. Then you go to the Denver Broncos with Sharp, Davis, Elway, before falling to the New England Patriots with Drew Bledsoe and Bill Parcells. And then it helps you out, Jaguars. My team beat them in the Super Bowl, so you're welcome for that. But this is also like this time again, like years ago when Blake Bortles was the quarterback for the Jaguars and they lost to the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship many years ago, the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So that is something relic to let you know about of like history-wise for the Jaguars. But Mark Brunell, he is the greatest quarterback for the Jaguars, and that's not saying much. Maybe he gets passed up by Trevor Lawrence in the near future. Blake Bortles, I liked watching him. I have his autograph, but yeah, he's not the case for that. He's not the case. But Mark Brunell, definitely the best quarterback as of right now for the Jaguars. So we got to give appreciation as the guy who helped them lead the team to many playoff appearances and go into the AFC Championship game. So I got to get appreciation there. Next on our list, this guy played 11 seasons for the Jaguars, and that is Fred Taylor, the running back. Fred Taylor, he's a one-time second-team All-Pro, one-time Pro Bowler. Prior to the Jaguars, he's the all-time leading rusher for the Jaguars in their franchise history. So that's a boost. That's going to go on my notice there for my GOAT status. His stats, folks, 11,271 rushing yards, 62 rushing TDs, 286 receptions, 2,361 receiving yards, 8 receiving TDs, 13,632 total scrimmage yards. Nicknamed the home run hitter because of his speed and his power to have those long runs. Now, a guy that I think of today is Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, remember his first game with the Titans when he first broke out was he had that long 90-yard run. That is Fred Taylor back in the day to me personally, because Fred Taylor, he was very versatile, very stuffed guys like Derrick Henry, just stuff them out of the way and just dodge defenders. Very balanced running back. Now, his biggest performance, I remember with Fred Taylor, was his 1999 performance against the Miami Dolphins in the divisional round that year, which I mentioned in the last episode. Look up that playoff game of Dan Marino's last one. Was not great. Was not great. And what did Fred Taylor do in that game? Well, he put up a touchdown, but he also got 133 rushing yards too. So that's pretty awesome here. And Fred Taylor, just amazing guy. When you watch his tape and you watch him on YouTube and you see the highlights of him, like what an incredible player he is of just stacking up the stats of like having over 11,000 rushing yards. That's pretty incredible. Then adding on to being very versatile in like the pass game a little here too. He really helped the Jaguars out, and being the all-time rushing leader for the Jaguars is pretty hard to do, to be the all-time rushing leader for a franchise. And the Jaguars, they're a very more recent franchise compared to the other franchises like the Green Bay Packers, my team, the Philadelphia Eagles. But Fred Taylor, all-time leading rusher, has to get praised here and has to definitely be on my list. One of the greatest players for the Jaguars. Next on our list, this guy also played 11 seasons for the Jaguars, and that is Jimmy Smith, the wide receiver. Two-time second-team All-Pro leader in the NFL, made it prior to the Jaguars, and he's the all-time leader in the Jaguars franchise history in career receptions, receiving yards, and TD catches. To use his stats, he had 862 receptions, 12,287 receiving yards, 67 receiving TDs, over 12,286 total scrimmage yards. Now, what sticks out about Jimmy Smith? His route run, his speed, his hands. He was a reliable target for Mark Brunell, as I mentioned before. And Jimmy Smith was a huge piece of why that Jaguars offense succeeded. Very huge piece, and he helped out create lanes to get open, just score that easy touchdown, or he helped out in the run game, but just with blocking too. So, great player. I mean, when you are the franchise leader in 3 categories in Jaguars franchise history, that has to get appreciation, and that definitely gets up on my list. Like I mentioned with Fred Taylor as the all-time leading rusher for the Jaguars franchise history. Jimmy Smith has to get appreciation there. He has to. All right. And then get to my last player here for the Jaguars is Maurice Jones-Drew, which I know him more on NFL Network by watching NFL Network once a week, and I always see him on there. He played 9 seasons for the Jaguars. He was a running back for them. He was a 2-time first-team All-Pro, 1-time second-team All-Pro, 3-time Pro Bowler, 1-time rushing yards leader. He's the Jaguars' all-time rushing TDs leader and all-purpose yards leader. His stats, folks: 8,071 rushing yards, 68 rushing TDs, 335 receptions, 2,873 receiving yards, 11 receiving TDs. His total scrimmage yards was 10,944. Now, things that stick out to me is he was a very dynamic and versatile running back. He had low center of gravity, so he had great balance to work with and incredible strength, and he exploded. Like Fred Taylor, as I mentioned before, he was also a guy who would just explode. He had powerful legs that would just be make him one of the toughest guys to get tackled, like you see most guys like Saquon Barkley today. Just a very hard guy to get tackled. And his running style, he had great balance, like I mentioned before, had great agility, and he had good vision to see down the field, like where can I dodge these defenders or what's the best pathway for me to go on a huge burst of a run. And that's the big thing about him. He would just find holes on his defense, just beat him through and just break those tackles too. So he excelled in both. And he was pretty good in open field plays and short yardage plays too. So that was a big thing to me and has to get praised on here. Definitely, folks. Has to get praised here. And then to get to my ultimate Jaguars GOAT, that is Tony Boselli. Tony Boselli, because he had a Hall of Fame career. He had 3 first-team All-Pros. He was very consistent in all years he played. And almost had 7 Pro Bowls. He had 5 of his 7 seasons that he played. And had he stayed healthy, I think he would have been the best left tackle of all time. So, my opinion, I think it's Tony Boselli just because of how much success he had with him and how much he helped Mark Brunell out, Jimmy Smith out, Fred Taylor out, of just creating a great offensive success with them. I think Tony Boselli, very underrated player, and I definitely think he's the best player in Jaguars franchise history of all time. Best player. But folks, that does it here. I appreciate everyone tuning it in. Let me know who your GOAT is. Am I right about Tony Boselli being the Jaguars' GOAT? Am I wrong? Who should have been mentioned? Who should have not been mentioned? Who should have gotten more appreciation? Let me know in the chat, guys. And the list and the honorable mention would appreciate it. But that's a wrap for this video, folks. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.